Lamborghini. Drink of the gods.
Tom bought me a Lamborghini. Thought it was amazing. It's called Bear's Bowl.
No.
It was amazing. Massive cocktail, because I saw someone else with a big cocktail.
That is
I
ridiculous.
saw someone with a big cocktail and just kind of thought, yeah.
No wonder you never got any money left.
Spend it on having fun.
Yeah.
It's literally. They got to the point that every time I stood up, I fell down. And it was basically because I didn't have enough blood or other oxygen in my blood to keep me standing up. So every time I stood up, I didn't have enough oxygen in my head, so I fainted. So obviously with that going on, my mum rushed me to the doctor's surgery.
Obviously.
That's Thingy's cat, Emma's cat.
All right.
So I always take pictures with it and then send it to Emma.
Absolutely devastated. Hadn't sort of entered my mind at all that it could be leukemia. It just, I thought pancreatitis, or I thought he'd injured himself in some way, or it just didn't cross my mind, and it was a massive shock.
The best name ever as well. It's called Bear's Bowl as well.
Yeah, because you lost a lot of it, but it was just like sort of the bottom falling out of your world. It just wasn't anything you sort of could even imagine. And then they did try to take him for an X-ray, and he couldn't even sit upright in the wheelchair and passed out. And I kept thinking he's going to die. And this is when he said to me, they got him back on the bed, and the minute he laid flat, he was okay again. And I was like terrible. I was crying and everything, and he said to me, you know, sort of, you've got to chill out, sort of thing, you know.
Almost like, which one is it? Sort of,
Oh, right, okay.
the two of them.
Now that's quite a remarkable and quite a difficult thing for someone of that age to think about, because not only have they got to process having received a life-threatening diagnosis and understand the treatment that will need to be given to cure them, but they've also got to process the fact that some of those treatments may affect their fertility and may even make them sterile. So within a very short space of time, a young man or a young boy will have to understand the potential impacts for their fertility. A cryoprotectant is added that helps to protect the sperm when they're frozen, and then the temperature is gently lowered to as cold as -196 degrees Celsius. And in tanks like these, at that temperature, sperm can effectively remain in suspended animation for tens of years, maybe even hundreds of years, and retain its viability.
That is bad.
That's horrendous, isn't it? So funny.
That's a bad person.
So proud. Because the other stuff was all... That was when I looked like Donald Trump. I'm a lot more mature than a 13, 14-year-old. A 13, 14-year-old has absolutely kind of no level of sexual maturity. They're still watching sex education programs at school. So that sort of jump up is something that's, especially in our society, it's not something that's ever spoken about. And bits like that aren't really, you know, it's not at the forefront. So no one's going to sit there with a 13, 14-year-old and I don't know, if you're explaining to them and telling them something that's not even crossed their mind. They've never thought about fertility. They've never thought about having kids even. I wouldn't have thought at that age. So yeah, I know certainly at 13 or 14 I wasn't thinking about having kids or anything like that.
They are still I think, processing and sometimes struggling a little bit with the whole concept and what it has meant for them. It can affect future relationships. I mean, when you go out for your first date with someone, you know, is the fact that you're potentially infertile something that you would say to someone on a first date? So it has profound consequences for the development of relationships.
You know how they always do really weird stuff, like holding a load of lemons or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we thought, stop for it.
So each time there's another thing that's badly affected him, you think, oh, isn't leukemia enough without having osteonecrosis? And now, you know, and then if you couldn't have kids. But, you know, you've got to sort of go on what you've got, not what you'd like. And you just have to make the best of what you've got. And he's alive and doing all right. And that's the most important thing, really. Obviously.
Yeah, literally every photo of me on there.
Look at your photos. The thing that I think most is the difference in your hair. But also, you're growing up from